Running a business is unpredictable, but with the right insurance, you can face the unexpected with confidence. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we protect what matters most: your people, your property, and your future. Whether it's liability, property, or workers' comp, we tailor coverage to fit your business needs. Because when you're covered, you can focus on what really matters: growing your business. Call us today for a free quote at 1-855-887-5656 or visit us at nwagencies.com. Northwest Insurance Agency, protection that works as hard as you do.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let we go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to a live-ish edition of the On the Pony Express podcast presented by Northwest Insurance Agency. I am Billy Embody. With me is Hayden Howerton. Beautiful day in Dallas, Texas, playing a little golf, and wanted to come to you guys with some thoughts on SMU Spring Ball. Since we're together, of course, we brought the mics. This is, of course, pre-planned, and we enjoyed as well, speaking of great planning, we enjoyed some rusty taco before we got the round going. We had the Texican for you.
We did.
Staple. I tried the Cooney Pig, which was really good. Pork and some potatoes. And also had a little just chicken fajita for me. And of course the Corn Fritters, which you can get for free using code ponyexpress at the Greenville Avenue location only. And we do have some hydration station with the margaritas. So appreciate Rusty Taco for all they do for us. But Hayden, let's jump into spring ball. 2 weeks away from the spring game, the private viewing of the Mustangs before fall camp is then the next attraction. What are you looking for when you're out there 2 weeks from now watching the Mustangs?
Spring showcase.
Yeah, spring showcase, private viewing, you know.
I'm really looking for this team to just overall be extremely excited to be out on the field still. Typically at the end of spring ball, you know, you get worn down, you hit that double-digit practice mark, and guys are just like, man, I can't wait for school to be over. Yeah. And I look at this team, and they've had 6 days off as of today. And so I'm looking at Rhett Lashlee is allowing this team to show its maturity in taking those days off. Hopefully they're getting out playing some golf.
Yeah,
you
good
know.
team camaraderie.
Yeah, no doubt. And so I'm really looking for guys to get out there, still be fresh, still be excited, both mentally and physically. You know, they're using the indoor facility, which has all the bells and whistles. Yeah. And they're just allowing themselves to go be regular students, you know, and handle their business and do what they need to mentally. And so I really just want to see this group overall just really mesh well, compete well. I want to see a clean showcase. I don't want to see a lot of balls on the ground, false starts, things like that, because if we see that, that unfortunately shows me, okay, we're going to have to practice every day. We're not going to be able to take breaks off and things like that. During COVID, unfortunately, they had to treat us like little kids, and we were up there almost every day because
every hour.
Yeah, they didn't trust us to go out and have time off because when we did, guess what? The bowl game got canceled.
Yeah.
So I think this team does have the maturity to go out and enjoy this time and still be fresh and ready to go. But Dean and I will be there. We'll cover it while Billy will be out of office. But you know, we'll have a good time, and I can't wait to watch them.
And Friday and Saturday, if you're watching this on Friday, we'll have already been out at practice. Saturday, the Mustangs are back at it as well. And I think the big thing for me is I do want to see the development of the skill positions a little bit more, specifically the wide receivers, because that is such a position that SMU is kind of pushing their chips in on a Jordan Hudson, a Romello Brinson developing and taking that next step, maybe without a Moochie Dixon and Keyshawn Smith there, and also being leaders. You know, you have Jalen Cooper, you have Dalen Singleton, you have some other younger players that have been around. That group needs to step up, and I don't know what the private viewing will look like, the showcase or whatever they're calling it, in terms of reps, in terms of getting guys work, but it would be really nice to see some of the talent level really showcase itself at that position, because I've seen a lot from the running backs. Like, that's a group that all of a sudden you're kind of feeling better. It's thin, but you're feeling better about. The wide receivers are a group I want to see more out of.
I agree. I mean, the two freshmen that are on campus right now, they have a huge opportunity not only to show off their physical skills, but also their maturity. And, you know, they were All-Americans and Jalen Cooper. And so I look at them getting out on the field, and they're really going to just be a sponge and absorb what the older guys are showing them. So that tells the veterans in the group, hey, you're going to have to just be that much better, because now you're showing yourself to these young guys who are looking to you on how are you going to respond when practices are hard? How are you going to respond when offense has a really rough opening period? Are you going to shut down for the day? Is the day just going to be a wash from there? Or are one of these leaders like Romello Brinson going to be able to come into the huddle and be like, hey guys, that's just not who we are. We're going to get better. We're going to do this, kind of give that camaraderie, motivational speech, so to say, to those guys. And it's not literally a, hey, come on guys, coach is right. But it's more of a leading by example, and just how they practice an individual and how they do run blocking, because obviously that's a big thing for this group as well. Of Rob Likens takes a big emphasis on how are you going to perform in the run game when you're not getting the football and you're not getting stats based off of it. So I think that group could take a huge step. I've also liked where the running backs are at, and Jermico Green isn't even on campus yet. Yep. And so Chris Johnson Jr. has gone out, and he's looked pretty good. And the limited reps that I've been able to see of him, Billy, you're out there a little more often, but he's looking like a mature guy now where we might be able to hand the rock to him, first, second, and third down. He'll be able to go get it done. But I think receiving core for sure, looking at this linebacking core, and I know they're being led by some new faces. They're also getting the returners out there. So that's kind of just a little bit of a battle to watch and see which guys are going to respond versus which guys are going to just take ownership of that room.
When you look at the linebackers and you see an Alex Kilgore who, you've spent some time around, he came in as a true freshman and actually started his first game, which was, it's kind of forgotten, I guess, in the course of his career, as Kobe Wilson, Ahmad Walker came in and ended up impressing. But, this is his room now. And as mature and as impressive as Zakai Barker is, and Brandon Miazono's been around a minute now, Alex Kilgore has a chance to really become a household Mustang name, because there's no more Kobe Wilson. There's no more Ahmad Walker. That's a kind of a special moment for some of these players that wait their turn for these moments.
He didn't jump in the transfer portal when he had these guys being brought in that had all these kinds of production. He's contributed where he can, and ultimately now he's being handed the reins of, this is your job now full time, go prove us right. And so he's waited his turn, he's bought into the culture, he's helped develop some of these younger guys that'll come up behind him, like Brandon Miazono. But now I definitely see him taking that next step as an older guy in the program, as a guy that goes, hey, this is now my shot to show that I can play on Sundays. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he meshes with Barker over there, who I think will probably wear the green dot for the defense. I think he's going to be more of the signal caller, getting everybody adjusted. And I like Alex Kilgore just athletically. He's going to make plays in space. He's going to make plays on the football, and I'm really excited to watch both of those guys come the rest of the spring.
We'll talk a little bit about quarterbacks after this short break presented by our friends at Thomas Auto Group. Of course, head up 75 McKinney and visit their Ford, Subaru, and Volkswagen location and find out more about the Thomas Promise, and of course, get employee pricing on new and pre-owned vehicles with the Thomas Auto Group. We'll be right back after this short break and a hole of golf.
At Thomas Auto Group, we created the Thomas Promise exclusively for our customers.
Because we believe our customers are the best. And the best customers deserve the best from us too.
That's right. The Thomas Promise includes the low price promise.
Next is the pre-owned promise.
And the 72-hour exchange promise.
And finally, the 100% customer satisfaction promise. So shop Thomas Auto Group today, right here in McKinney, home of the Thomas Promise.
We're back at the On the Pony Express podcast. Billy, Embody, Hayden Howerton talking SMU quarterbacks now as spring practice is 2 weeks away from the end. Kevin Jennings, of course, returns as a starting quarterback as one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Very different mindset, very different stance than he was coming into last season, backing up Preston Stone, but in a quarterback competition. He takes over after that BYU game, and kind of the rest is history. Wasn't perfect by any means, but he was one of the best in the country at yards per attempt, playmaking, and of course, he does need to take care of the football more. There's a lot we're going to learn about Kevin Jennings. Most of that comes when the season comes around, but what I can say is I think he's very comfortable. He's very calm. I know people, see some of the last few throws he's made or whatever, and they say, oh, it panics or whatever, but like Kevin is kind of Kevin.
People say that SMU caught lightning in a bottle, when Kevin took over, and I don't really think Kevin was just doing anything insane or wasn't making plays that he hadn't already before. He was really just managing and playing the game that way that he knows how. I mean, yes, he can make plays with his legs and he can scramble, and yes, he does need to get rid of the ball in certain situations, but so did Preston Stone.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Kevin Jennings now going into his second season as the full-time starter as a little more maturity, a little more experience under his belt. He has played against big competition in bigger college football games than either of us played in.
Yeah.
And so you're looking at him now of, okay, Kevin has that experience under his belt, which with quarterbacks just pays dividends. And him being able to really develop that relationship with his skill guys, with Rhett Lashlee, with De'Aaron King, and really just spend a whole year as someone who everybody knows is going to be the guy and is given that level of respect and that level of just, hey, Kevin, we know you're going to be the guy. Here's how we're going to coach you even harder to ensure that you are going to be the quarterback that we all know you can and will be. So I'm watching Kevin every day at practice, and we're seeing him just be a little more calm, a little more poised. And he was never really a fiery guy to begin with. He's always pretty calm, cool, and collected. But you can just tell his mental level of football is just on a different level. I mean, what are you seeing? You're a little closer to him. Just kind of what have you noticed so far?
I think there's very much a point with this offensive line, and we kind of saw it last year in fall camp where, we knew how good the defensive line was going to be. I mean, they got after him. And there's still a little bit of that. I would say this year's offensive line is a little bit better at run blocking this year's defensive line. And part of that is Jonathan Jefferson's not been out there. Matthew Hibner is not. So they're kind of doing some different things right now without Matthew Hibner, RJ Maryland offensively. And it has allowed Kevin to kind of make a little bit more I think bang for his buck in terms of his reps during spring, because you have Chris Johnson Jr., you have Derek McFall, who are getting comfortable running the football, and they've had success. And that has allowed Kevin and this offense to kind of be a little bit more wide open. I don't necessarily think it's going to look the way it will look this fall, but that's allowed him to kind of learn a little bit more about himself. And again, I think so much of what we will learn about Kevin Jennings is going to be this fall, right? Like, it's going to be week 2 against Baylor. It's going to be week 4 against TCU. It's going to be in the Miami game. It's going to be at Clemson. Those type of situations where he has to show in some of the, especially against like a Clemson, and, of course, Baylor, TCU, whatever, that when you're running for your life and nothing's there, okay, you got to toss it out of bounds.
Yeah.
You just have to. And I think that's something where, you saw the reason why Clemson probably won that game against SMU is Cade Klubnik did that. Truthfully, or just kind of the comparison of the two under pressure in that game. But, Kevin is just incredible with his arm strength. He still makes throws that are highlight reel level, and he makes some of the routine plays, and he's also a little bit more comfortable and confident directing the offense. He's confident saying, hey, Derek McFall, go. Let's turn it upfield a little bit, and I'll pop the ball to you, make a big play, those type of things. It's a little bit more rehearsed chaos rather than pure chaos. I know that might sound funny to some, but I think you know what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, you look at Clemson's response when SMU came back and tied that ball game, and the way that they responded was impressive, but also they've been in those situations before. It's been big-time pressure football games in the national championship. We got to go down, drive the field, score a touchdown, beat Alabama. And so when you have Dabo Swinney, who sets that culture and has that precedent and really just has that street cred where he's gone out and done it and he's performed at that level. And I'm looking at Kevin now of, okay, you've played in the college football playoff, and let's see what you do this time.
Yeah, and I think when you look at spring, the biggest thing is what are they doing as far as backup quarterbacks. And you look at Keldrick Luster, he returns as the number 2 behind Kevin Jennings, and he's had some pretty good moments this spring. He's had some moments where I think he'd certainly want back, as we saw in the spring and in the fall last year when Kevin was the number 2. You're having somebody who is running for their life in that second team offensive line. I mean, that's a group that, just truthfully, with the way SMU has recruited the defensive line position, they've not necessarily got the best matchup. I mean, and that's many offensive lines around the country. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, when you look at what Kevin Jennings eventually became, he learned a lot playing behind that number 2 offensive line. I think you can make the same point about what Ty Hawkins is going through. He got some more reps with the 2s right now than maybe I would have even expected, you know, coming from IMG and, you know, putting that together for SMU and what they were going to, you know, have from a recruit perspective at the quarterback position. You know, that's something that I think SMU, like, they're in a different boat than they were in the past at the quarterback position. And what you have now, I think, is you have a legitimate quarterback competition when it comes to the number 2. And you know, people will laugh or whatever because, you know, we talked about this last year and how Kevin Jennings was making a run and people were like, "You're just trying to create controversy, Billy. Why are you doing that?" Well, Ty Hawkins can absolutely spin it. And I think that's important to note because when you get into this like world of college football these days and the improvisational skills that you need at quarterback, Ty Hawkins has that. And his arm strength, his ability has just been stellar. And I think that's something that I thought would take a little bit more time than it has to come together for him. But he really has, like, put spin on the ball, like, or not put spin on the ball, we're talking a little golf here, but has put so much, like, arm talent on display that I think you have to kind of believe it to really, like, understand it. And, you know, I've seen Ty burst onto the scene as a sophomore, was unbelievable in San Antonio at Johnson High School, and then goes and kind of takes a step back as a junior in a way, and you're kind of like, okay, how's this guy going to end up being? Goes to IMG, missed some games, missed some time due to injury, but you know, I think that allowed him, that time at IMG allowed him to be a little bit more of, you know, somebody who has a little bit more, like, strength to him. Like, he's just physically more mature than he was, you know, coming from the Texas high school football ranks. And now that he is at SMU, he spent January, February, and then you get into late March, almost 3 full months with Sean Griswold. It's an underrated piece to why he's having some of the early success that he's having. Keldrick Luster, he's facing what Kevin Jennings did last year, playing with that second team offensive line. It's no disrespect to those guys that are out there, but you just have a group that is very different from a talent perspective to the defensive line that they're facing. So SMU's quarterback situation, Tyler Van Dyke, what he brings to the table, he's still rehabbing his knee. You won't see him at the spring scrimmage or spring showcase or whatever they want to call it. But what you do have now is you really have, again, one of the stronger quarterback groups in the country with their talent and just what they're putting together. So a lot of, you know, bright moments to come, I think, for this group. You feel comfortable about Kevin Jennings, of course. You want to see him take the next step on the field. But Keldrick Luster, Ty Hawkins have shown you what they needed to so far this year. And, you know, the future's bright with Tyler Van Dyke. So it's all about Derek King managing these guys, managing this competition. And, look, we'll wrap up our spring thoughts from the golf course here after this quick break, but do want to remind you guys as well about our friends at StatusJet, statusjet.com. Make sure you reach out to them today and mention on the Pony Express or our discount code PonyUpACC for a discount on a round-trip flight today. That'll help you get family, friends from point A to point B no matter what, or your clients and your work colleagues from point A to point B with that level of luxury you'd expect. So go to statusjet.com today, reach out to them, and set up the trip of a lifetime. We appreciate their support of the On the Pony Express podcast. We'll be right back after this quick break. Appreciate StatusJet for all they do for the On the Pony Express podcast. And Hayden, I did want to ask before we wrap up our final thoughts on spring here, do you have a favorite golf shot of your life? Do you have a favorite club? Do you know, what's kind of some of that aspect of your golf game and just kind of all the things that go with that?
You know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm a scratch golfer by any means. I mean, I made a triple
Join the
bogey
club.
on one today. But no, I mean, I think about my favorite golf shot of all time, and I think Cameron Irvin was with me when I hit this. I'm trying to remember the course. It was in Arlington. 235-yard par 3. I stuck it to about 6 feet, which was pretty cool. Made birdie on that one. Favorite club, though, I would just, as a big boy, as a guy that can pipe it, I would just have to say driver. I mean, I definitely, look at Billy's shot here in the background. I would definitely say that the long irons, your woods, are more of my forte than my short game. Come on, Billy. Come on.
It's way over, I think.
You're just left. It's good distance. You're
Not
just
bad.
left.
That would have been golf shot of my life.
Yeah,
Like,
it would have
that
been.
little tight little
Just-
ending
we'll
right
show
down
you
there.
this back here. We're hitting over some water here on the fairway. We both ended up in the fairway, so good shots. But how about
Yeah.
you, man? You think about your best golf shot of all time or your favorite hole, favorite club, things like that. I know you're rocking the Nike clubs as well.
Yeah, high school graduation gifts, so they're fresh, they're cutting edge at this stage. But no, I actually had just gotten news, not just, but Scout, where I was working, shout out Scout, all of our original Scout subscribers back in the day.
Way back when.
Way back when. We went bankrupt. Jim Heckman and some of the leadership decided that having a studio in New York for over $2 million a day was not really right thought, bad execution maybe. So we went bankrupt, and one of the biggest things that's ever happened in my career is Shannon Terry, 24/7. They bought Scout on pennies on the dollar, and my contract got acquired with that, and it was kind of one of those things where it happened. As we get Hayden shot here. I don't have
It's
it.
high. Hold on.
Hold on.
All right.
He's
we're
on the
green.
dance floor. And fast forward a couple months, we'd gone through bankruptcy and all that. Contracts get acquired. And so they have a meet and greet. And this was back in the days when I was covering LSU. I just moved down. I was maybe a year out of college. The company I'm working for goes bankrupt after I signed an 18-month lease. Like,
Brutal.
really exciting times.
That's like NFL stuff.
Yeah, that is like NFL stuff. And so I put my head down and worked, and they had a little get-together with all the Scout and 24/7 people in Birmingham around SEC Media Days. And it was at, I think, the Marriott. It was on one of the Robert Trent Jones golf courses. It's beautiful. I get invited to play golf with our two Auburn guys, Mark Murphy and Jason Caldwell at the time, and our CFO, Andy Johnson, who's still our CFO to this day. And we go tit for tat, tied the whole way. And on 18, with rented clubs, I have about 220 yards, and I hit a 3-iron, and I put it 2 feet, and we win. And of course, Andy, who's still our CFO, I think
He pay up?
No. We were partners, so that was the big thing too.
Nice.
That we were the partners. So, pretty cool shot there, and definitely something that I think has helped me, stick around as long as I have. But
Right.
All right, we go to cap off our spring conversation here.
Nobody's on the fairway. We're not holding anybody up.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is just beautiful though. Undisclosed location, maybe a podcast partner at some point. Man, look at me
Hopefully.
right here in the drain.
In the drain.
That's
Man,
called,
hey,
that's called
free relief.
Yeah, free relief. Give it a good kick. Here you go. The look, the spring showcase is one thing. The transfer portal is another thing that they're battling. They're waiting for clarity on what the house settlement's going to look like. There's a lot of things that are up in the air. But I think SMU fans that do have season tickets that are going to get a chance to get out there. This is quite the up and down here.
See if he can get up and down here. Pull my Jim Nance impersonation while he's doing this. Just gets over the lip. A little roll.
Settle.
Needs to settle by the edge of the water.
Oof, I don't know if that held on.
On the fringe.
Oh, thanks.
Will be a tough fourth shot.
Really hope you hold this so I can do my own. But, I think there's a lot of questions from people about, just how good this SMU team is going to be next year, of course. But those that get out there, those that get to see this team, I think you'll see a lot more team speed. I think that's one of the big things that most people are going to take away from watching this team go to work, get out there, do their thing, is that, you see these freshmen running around, you see Zakai Barker making plays out there at linebacker, you see, a year older Speedy Nettles, you see some of those guys run around, and it's important that people know that they're developing talent. They're still, trying to coach them and put them in the best position to be successful, and they have the talent to do it. So here's Hayden's attempt. I think I got it. It's pretty good speed there, buddy.
Not too bad. Wrong line. Pretty good speed.
And I think that's one of the trademarks right now of this team as it's developing is they're going to have more team speed than they had last year. I think until we see what happens from the transfer portal, the size of this team is going to be a question mark defensively as they go through, that second portal window. Like, I think they need to add another defensive tackle. I think they
100%.
would love to maybe, I don't think they're going to, but still think they always talk about linemen. Wouldn't hate adding another lineman, I think. And just kind of allowing yourself a little bit more grace, so to speak, of, a Draymond Odoms to develop or, more competition along that interior at the right guard position.
Because you're going to get into that grind.
I think
this is a much tougher schedule this year than it was last year. Yes, I think our hardest games besides Clemson are still at home.
Yep.
However, we get Miami. I think Louisville is going to develop into one of those budding rivalries in the ACC that is going to pretty much always be a game that comes down to the fourth quarter. I just think it's two programs where Louisville has been a top 5 team previously. I think they'll continue to get talent at that level. And I think SMU is still, over the next few years, until we can have repeated, consistent success, going to have to scratch and claw their way to the top of the ACC. Nobody is going to roll over for this SMU team. And especially after last year, we have a target on our back. We went to the ACC championship in year 1. Social media doesn't help.
No.
And especially when you beat teams pretty convincingly, and we have a cool social media team that kind of embarrasses everybody else.
Yeah.
They're going to play that, and they're going to talk to their guys about, like, guys, these guys came into our house and embarrassed us. It's time for some payback. So SMU's going to have to just raise that level of competition. And a coach I used to have would call it the law of the price tag. Mm-hmm. And the better something becomes or the greater success you've had previously, the harder it is to replicate. And so I'm watching this SMU team go through offseason, and I'm watching them go through spring ball, and it has been a productive offseason in spring ball, but it just has to be raised and turned up just 1 or 2 degrees over it was last year, because you're not going to be able to replicate the same success with the same effort.
Yeah, it's such a different schedule. It's such a different feel around this team. Like you said, they're not going to be able to sneak up on people and kind of surprise them. There's going to be, even though there's so much unknown about the running back position, no one's going to be sitting there being like, oh, look, oh my gosh, how do we defend Chris Johnson Jr. or Derek McFall? Because guess what? SMU's had an under-the-radar running back turn into an All-American type of player. So
it's going to be a day 2 draft pick, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. And so all of the things that have caught teams by surprise over the last 2 years, whether it be the AAC or ACC, SMU's not going to have in their advantage. I think what they have in their advantage is the teams out there don't know what Kevin Jennings is going to look like in a sense, right? Like, the lasting memory of so many of these teams and national media, which don't impact the teams at all, but are the last 2 games and kind of the up and down play, right? And so what changes does Rhett Lashlee make? What tweaks do they make to make things better for Kevin Jennings in year 2? What like positional changes? Like RJ Maryland, does he play in the slot more? Does he play outside? You have Link Rhodes coming in this summer, who no one will have seen by the time game 1 hits. I mean, Rhett Lashlee and his staff, they're probably going to close down fall camp pretty good. Like, spring is open, and it's unbelievable to have that type of access, even with the spring, game situation. Like, they've let us in there pretty much every day, which is awesome. So, and for the full length. But there are going to be some question marks. There are going to be some things that SMU is going to be able to sneak up on some teams. Of course, there's questions around the country and teams that SMU will face as well. But when you get out there, if you're a season ticket holder and you get out to see this team on Friday, April 25th, you're going to see a team that I really think has a different way about them too. And you kind of mentioned it. You don't want to see the drop off of competition of workmanlike attitude. The thing about this team is, if I have a worry, is that they're overly into the mundane things. And it's weird to say that, but when you do the mundane things and they just keep going, and you've been in that grind. I mean, you've been in it far longer than I was in college, but I was as well, and you're kind of like, oh, crap, man. Like, but the good teams, they enjoy it.
Love it.
Exactly.
Love it.
They love it. And that's where this team seems to execute it really well. The question is, as they get into fall camp and they get ready for the season, when they don't have the vocal leadership maybe of the past team, how does that overcome it? And we're going to maybe see a little preview, like you mentioned early in the pod. How do they handle it April 25th?
Yeah. I mean, you lose Jonathan McGill, you lose Burchard, you lose Justin Osborne, these big-time vocal leaders that really are able to get the unit. Elijah Roberts are able to get people going when things aren't going well. And now, you just haven't had that in previous, success of these rising seniors. And so people are going to have to get out of their comfort zone. You're going to have to establish yourself. And it feels awkward the first time you do it. I mean, when I was a sophomore, that was kind of thrust upon me. And I'm some 19-year-old, telling these 23-year-old men, hey, let's make sure we do this today. Let's get after it this way. And guys are like, this guy, and they laugh. But if you back it up on the field and you approach it every day, because guys can sniff it out if it's fake.
Yeah.
If you're that way around the coaches and then you go in the locker room and you're like, Billy, man, this sucks. I'm not following that guy.
Yeah.
So you have to be that guy every day, and just that John Henry versus the machine. Just keep your head down and keep swinging that hammer, and eventually you'll break through. So I agree. I like this team, how they're approaching the offseason, because it is not easy, especially when you come off of a really long college football season that SMU played in last year. Most games played in organization's history, played 15. Or 14. I'm looking at the team of just how have they responded, and they've checked all the boxes so far, but there's still a long way to go between now and April 25th and then August 31st.
So like you said, keep swinging the hammer. We're going to keep swinging the hammer out here on the golf course. And again, we appreciate you guys for listening. We tried this out. We're going to maybe figure out a little bit better the camera situation, but we hope you guys enjoyed it. We had a blast doing it, of course, and talking a little SMU football while we're out here swinging the sticks and getting some golf and some much needed time out here on the golf course, and some good conversation as well. So make sure you guys support all of our sponsors. We've got Rusty Taco, appreciate them, Status Jet, Thomas Auto Group, and of course Rusty Taco bringing the heat on the golf course for us. So we
came in clutch after work today.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks for listening to this special edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. For Hayden Howerton, I'm Billy Embody. We'll catch you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoy the Masters this weekend, and see Bryson DeChambeau hopefully win it as well.
3 under after day 1.
Yep. See you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU_on3 and on Instagram at on3SMU. And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.
In Texas, the road is part of who we are. From Dallas traffic to Hill Country back roads, you need coverage that keeps up. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we're proud to serve Texans with the best home, auto and business insurance paired with honest rates, real protection, and local agents who understand life around here. Call us for a quote at 1-855-887-5656 or visit us at nwagencies.com.